After 30 days of unsuccessfully trying to get the American hostages out of Tehran, the government of the United States is now trying to get the deposed Shah of Iran out of this country. And there is no sign tonight that either problem is likely to be solved soon. Here's a report from diplomatic correspondent Ted Koppel.
There is only one nation that has publicly announced its willingness to receive the Shah, Egypt. But the Shah prefers not to accept that invitation, which places a new burden on the government of the United States.
We're not going to put a man into a rowboat and send him out beyond the continental shelf if he has no place to go. We have said that we are trying to assist him in finding a permanent location.
There are some options, a few doors, as one official here put it, which aren't closed all the way yet. But the same official added, there's not a hell of a lot of physical bravery out there. Can the United States keep the Shah? If it comes to that, said the official, we can't not keep him. But for the moment, there is an even more pressing issue, the hostages. How are they? Where are they?
So long as the authorities in Tehran refuse to allow any neutral or outside observers an opportunity to see all prisoners, the possibilities of what may be happening to those prisoners is infinite. It is beyond my capacity to guess and beyond our capacity to know.
The very uncertainty of the hostages' condition creates a situation in which President Carter's warning of last week looms larger with each passing day.
The government of Iran must recognize the gravity of the situation which it has itself created and the grave consequences which will result if harm comes to any of the hostages.
But for all the mounting pressure on that front, the administration remains unshaken in its determination not to return the Shah to Iran, and if no other country will have him, to keep him here. Ted Koppel, ABC News at the State Department.
This is Charles Murphy in San Antonio. San Antonio might have known the Iranian crisis would touch its life in one form or another. The military is the city's largest industry, its biggest payroll. It has the largest concentration of military personnel, active and retired, outside Washington, scattered over 5 bases. The president probably couldn't have chosen a big city more in support of his decision to let the Shah come here, as correspondent Al Dale learned outside of PX.
I think we should keep him here. We shouldn't give him back just because they want to blackmail us, and I think that's what it is. It's a form of blackmail.
I'm very pleased to have him here. If they're going to send him anywhere, no better place in San Antonio.
But not all thought it was a good idea.
They probably should get him out of here, but don't give him back to the Iranians. Let him go somewhere else.
About 250 Iranians attend San Antonio College, and today there were heated arguments there.
The business people in the United States. You come here, you go to school, you demonstrate, then you take the oil. What more you want?
The Iranians want to demonstrate outside Lackland Air Force Base on Friday. The city's mayor, Lila Cockrell, says the city will decide Wednesday whether to issue permits. The Shah has reportedly been moved to visiting officers' quarters some distance inside the base. In any case, Iranians are not likely to force their way onto this base. There's too much security. Riot training is one of the courses taught here, and this drill was canceled abruptly when Lackland learned it was being photographed. The press was expelled from the base yesterday. Charles Murphy, ABC News, Lackland Air Force Base, Texas.
Here in Iran, at the beginning of another week, students holding 50 hostages at the American embassy still give no sign of allowing an independent appraisal of their condition. At the government level, there is no serious sign of wanting to negotiate an end to the Iranian-American crisis. Today, Iran has moved one step closer to becoming a nation which will be run under the guidelines of Islam. It was the second day of voting for an Islamic constitution. And as Bob Dyke reports, there was a wholesale vote in its favor.
This headline in Tehran's only English-language daily was composed about 18 hours before the polls closed here. But there's no law against electioneering, and voters seem to be voting as the paper predicted they would in favor of the new constitution, which will confirm sweeping powers to the Ayatollah Khomeini. The ballots were not exactly cast in privacy. A discarded green card meant an individual had voted against the Constitution. Most of the no votes seem to have been registered in Iran's border provinces, Azerbaijan, Kurdistan, and Baluchistan, where the country's Sunni Muslim and ethnic minorities have been campaigning often violently for their independence from the rest of Iran. The yes vote, which seems to be running at about 2,000 to 1, probably has a lot to do with the takeover of the U.S. Embassy. It helped the unemployed forget about their joblessness. Many have occupied themselves outside the compound as anti-American demonstrators. There wasn't much activity at the embassy today. The nation's attention seemed centered on the referendum. Students patrolled the grounds in the same bored fashion they have for nearly a month now. There was mild excitement when 2 Swedish reporters left the compound after interviewing some of the students. The students apparently had nothing new to say, so the excitement died down. As sunset approached, an Iranian television technician switched on floodlights facing the crowd, and a British newsman filmed a promotional announcement for his channel back home.
We report from inside these gates.
By twilight, most of the newsmen had gone, leaving the demonstrators to continue their vigil outside the fallen embassy. Bob Dyke, ABC News, Tehran.
The Reuters news agency telephoned one of the so-called students inside the embassy today and was told that 8 of the hostages had been singled out for intensive interrogation because their captors are convinced they are spies. It was also said an atmosphere of affection and friendship has developed between the hostages and their guards. Quote, when they wake up, they smile when they see us, and when we feel they are tired, we loosen their bonds. End quote. Max?
Frank, the United Nations Security Council met again briefly late this afternoon to discuss the situation in Iran, then adjourned until tomorrow. As Luciafi reports, the members are moving toward a consensus on what stand to take.
The faces change, but the speeches are amazingly similar. The American hostages must be released. Iran must respect the traditional diplomatic immunity of foreign embassies. That seems to be the unanimous opinion of every country here. But while they express their public indignation, the Security Council is working equally hard behind the scenes to avoid doing or saying anything that might force Iran to take drastic action. The final wording of the Security Council resolution is still being worked on. The United States wants to make sure that it calls for the release of the hostages as a precondition to any other action. Kuwait's ambassador Bishara does not disagree, but he wants the resolution to at least mention Iran's grievances with the assurance that once the hostages are released, those grievances can and should be discussed. Even though the Ayatollah Khomeini has already rejected the Security Council resolution, the members of the Council agree they cannot afford to antagonize him or the students. As one diplomat said, there may be 50 hostages in Tehran, but there seem to be 15 of us here. This is Luciafi, ABC News at the United Nations.